Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about my top 5 historical fiction books that I have read this far. Now, these are the books that I'm going to probably keep forever. I constantly think about them, and I want to share them with you and why. Now, this first book that I am going to talk about is one that I have recommended to so many different people that absolutely have loved it. It is really one of those books that you could recommend literally to anyone. And that would be The Indigo Girl by Natasha Boyd. This book is based off of Eliza Lucas. She was a 16-year-old girl that was left to run the family farm while her dad and brothers fought in the war. However, her mom really wasn't in the state to, I guess you could say, run the family farm. So as a 16-year-old girl, she was left to take care of everything. But of course, after her dad and brothers left, the farm kind of started going downhill. Their plants were not growing. It was not looking good, and they were going to lose everything because she found out that her dad was in debt with many people. So now she has to save the family farm. Well, she heard indigo, the color, was actually very, very profitable. However, it was very, very hard to make. Only the French at this time had mastered the color of indigo. A lot of people paid a pretty penny for the color indigo. So now her dilemma was, how do you grow indigo, and then how do you transform indigo onto materials? The answer came from one of her slaves. She actually really respected her slaves and was very kind to them. And this slave was able to tell her exactly how to make it. Now, the reason why the slave knew this is because they used to work for the French and had mastered the color. So first thing, you have to grow the indigo. That proved to be harder than you could think. So after failure of crop, it was not looking good for her and her family. But she didn't give up. She kept going, and eventually they finally mastered it. And she became one of the richest women in America at the time. And George Washington was even a pallbearer at her funeral. So this is a great story. Like I said, this is something you could literally recommend to anybody. I absolutely loved this book. Now, I know a lot of people think when they hear historical fiction, they obviously think about World War II because there are millions of books out there that are World War II based. However, out of all the ones that I have read, which is quite a few, this one is the one that stands out to me the most. And I've also recommended this one to numerous people because it is fast paced. It gets you on the edge of your seat. I absolutely love this book, and I think I read it like 4 or 5 years ago, and I still think about it to this day. The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. Now, this one is actually World War II and kind of World War I, but it's about female spies. And this is like a dual story timeline. And basically finding out what the World War I female did, she was a spy. And everything that she did to get information from being a waitress to keeping men company, if you will. And then also the later story is about World War II, or really the aftermath, about a lady finding her missing cousin. She ends up on the front doorstep of this woman that is very grouchy, doesn't want to do anything. And then lo and behold, she has this incredible story. And like I said, this book is very fast paced. I love this book. I would recommend this to almost anybody. It does have some dark points in it, I will say, but this is a fantastic read. Now, this next book is a tearjerker. This one, it's a very tough read. I'm not gonna lie, but as a woman, it is a powerful read. The Red Tent by Anita Diamant. This book is based off of Dinah. She was in the book of Genesis and the Bible. She's kind of briefly mentioned in the book, but this author had made her story more elaborate. So her father had many wives, and all these wives were sisters. And each of the sisters had their own kids except for one. She was not able to have kids of her own, but all these women were really close-knit with each other. Now, the Red Tent itself, what is a red tent? It's basically the place that the women went to when it was their monthly time or when they were giving birth. Now, Dinah really, really loved the midwife that would come and help out with the births. So Dinah got to learn a lot of things from her. But of course, things happen in the family. Her grandpa doesn't want them there. Her dad, Jacob, has been working on the farm for many years and thinks he is finally owed his due and can't take it anymore with his father-in-law, and he takes all of his wives and kids and some of the flock. They head out of town thinking that they were far enough ahead that nothing would happen. And of course she finds love. They get married and then she gets pregnant, but unfortunately a major tragedy strikes. Everything that she knows and loves is gone. She flees with her mother-in-law to safety in a completely different part of the world. Once she flees, her life, I wouldn't necessarily say it gets better right away, but she does find love again. And I mean that in so many different ways. She finds peace. The ending of this book is just so heart-wrenching. Now, this book is very hard to read for some people, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to just anyone, but somebody that can kind of handle tragedies and stuff like that, I would recommend this book. Very powerful. Now, this next book is kind of got a similar feeling, but the time frame of this story is a lot sooner than that of The Red Tent. This is A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khalid Hosseini, I believe is how you pronounce his name. This book is also gut-wrenching. It's about women's rights in Afghanistan. It is about this little girl that is raised by her mother. Her father already has his wives. She was kind of shunned away and told, she's got to go live with her mother kind of out in the middle of nowhere away from society because her dad was kind of ashamed, I guess, of her mother. Unfortunately, tragedy strikes and then he makes the decision to marry her off. I am sure you can imagine what happened behind closed door between her and her husband. It is very sad, gut-wrenching, but then war breaks out. Then her husband takes on another wife who is younger. These two women live together, can't stand each other at first, but then they start to develop a beautiful friendship over time. And when I tell you the ending of this book is so hard to digest, you want to feel happy, you want to feel sad, you just have so many emotions when this book ends. Like, you just don't know, almost kind of like you don't know what to do with yourself. You're just like, wow, what did I just read? It is an incredible story, another hard one to read, but I absolutely love this book. Okay, last but definitely not least, The Exiles by Christina Baker Klein. This book is kind of about two different things. It's about the prisoner transports from Britain all the way to Australia, and then it's also about how the white people of England came and also took the indigenous people from the islands that they lived in around Australia, kind of made them as like their pet almost, and like would showcase them, was trying to prove to the world that they could educate these people. But this book follows the women actually on the prison transports about what they did, and a lot of them obviously really didn't do anything wrong. Like, some of them were accused of taking a silver spoon, which the owner of the house knew it wasn't true, but they were accused, and now they're being shipped off to Australia to serve their sentence. The actual sailing of it, I think it's 2 months of sailing to Australia. Now, this follows the group of women, of all different types of women, all different type of charges that they're facing, and just kind of like their journey getting to know each other and moving on from it and trying to better their lives. When they get to Australia, basically it is more like a labor prison, if that makes any sense. They are sent to work in the houses around the prison area, to be maids, servants, or whatever. I just find this book absolutely incredible because, like I said, it addresses two major things that happened in history: the prisoner transports and the indigenous people being taken from their homes and basically flip-flopping their lives into them being maids and servants and things like that, and also used as almost like test subjects on whether or not they could be educated, things like that. So I found this book to be very informative because I really didn't know about either one of these issues before I read this book. So this book is very eye-opening and educating as well. Now, a lot of these books I understand are very like emotional reads. You will feel many different emotions when you read these books. You'll feel anger, you'll smile, you'll also feel peace. It's just so many different emotions that you get from these books that I just absolutely love, and their stories run so deep, it resonates in you. So that's why I love these books. I will always have these books with me. These have been my top 5 books for honestly a few years. It's been a while since I've read a book that gripped me the way that these books have. Definitely let me know if you've read any of these books and if you have any recommendations that are like these books. I tend to lean towards books that have very strong female characters in it. A lot of people believe historical fiction is basically World War II because it feels like those are the only books that get a lot of praise about. But there are still a lot of great historical fiction books out there that have absolutely nothing to do with World War II. So if you like book recommendation, book reviews, definitely subscribe to my channel. I love reviewing and recommending books, and I also love getting those as well. So if you have any book recommendations, definitely comment those below.